And yet that mythos of the mountain, the safe place, that's why they want to bury the waste here, because people will like that it's in a mountain, because we have this inner sense that the mountain is where you put something safe, you know? Meanwhile, it's 3,000 feet above grade if it starts to leak. Hello? The whole headwaters of the entire coastal plain will be at risk, which is why, even if granite is better, we have to fight this site.
There's not really a good place to store the waste, at least not on this planet, I guess.
But getting it off the planet's even more problematic, Ron. Just remember Challenger and all that. We have made a challenge for ourselves. Can we meet it, is the question.
We've opened the genie's bottle.
You
and
know,
there's no way of getting the genie back.
well, the movie Aladdin, did you ever see it? It's a meta-myth for all this, that when the big bad genie is going, he has an atomic symbol on his chest, and even the good genie has an atomic symbol sometimes on his chest. And when they get the bad genie back in the bottle, they say, we're going to throw him under the mountain to cool down for 10,000 years, which was the original statement about Yucca. And the picture in the movie of the mountain in the distance looks just like Yucca Mountain. It's a fleeting thing, but it's putting into people's consciousness this idea that you put the dangerous stuff in a mountain. And I don't buy it. You put dangerous stuff in a mountain, it's up in the air. Gravity's going to act on it when it leaks. And it will leak someday. So why would you put it in a mountain?
So where would you?
That's why we need to engage, and we all need to be coming together, not letting the industry or the government play us against each other. We already have all this waste. We don't want to dump on each other. We need to really get to know each other and work together on figuring out how to support each other, is how I'm going to say that. Because if we solve the industry's problem for them, what are they going to do? They're just going to keep making more, right?
And then charge us for it.
And charge us for it. So let's not focus on the problem. Let's focus on positive solutions for stopping making more and positive ways to support each other in coming up with a real answer to this incredible challenge we've created for ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I mean our species. We have made plutonium and a whole inventory of radioactive materials that we now get to live with. How are we going to do that?
So where's all the waste now?
At the reactors is where most of it is, because they've never moved it, because they've never had any place to take it. Now, the so-called low-level waste is different, but the incredibly concentrated radioactivity is in the fuel rods that were in the core of the nuclear power plant for 3 to 5 years, that have built up millions of times more radioactivity than the uranium fuel when you put it into the core, and in the process of splitting the atoms, also making plutonium, which is where uranium didn't split, it instead absorbed a particle and became heavier and became plutonium. So these fuel rods that are laced with cesium, strontium, iodine, a whole alphabet soup of highly radioactive elements is 1% plutonium. And that's what is sitting at every single nuclear power plant that's operating in the United States. And that is what would have gone to Yucca Mountain, but thankfully is not.
No, it's safer then, just to leave the stuff where it is. You don't have the danger of any accidents transporting it to some central place. I'm sure it's being stored in a safe manner at each one of these sites, right?
Well, the communities are asking that the storage be better, because it's not that great. It's like bowling pins on a cement pad with a chain link fence around it and some lights and the security that the whole site has. That's when it's been taken out of the wet storage, which is still very dangerous at some sites where they have way too much fuel in a pool storage. So, you know, taking it into these dry containers is a step up, but those containers are currently sitting ducks. So local communities are asking for something called the Principles for Safeguarding Nuclear Waste at Reactor Sites, and that would include spreading the containers out, earth berming around them, providing radiation monitors, better security, like actual cameras on each one, a series of demands that would improve the sense that the local community is being protected while that stuff sits there. Now, the truth is that our regulators are beginning to think about 300-year licensing. for temporary storage.
Sorry. 300 years is temporary. Well,
But quite frankly, keeping it at the reactor sites puts it in more than 30 states. And this is good because our government works on annual spending that is votes called appropriations bills. And if you don't have enough votes, you don't get money. So there's this idea that centralizing the waste is intrinsically better. Oh, it'll be so much better when it's all in one place. Well, first off, it's not all in one place. It's in thousands of millions of places while it's being moved. And unless they turn the reactor off, it's still being generated at each reactor site. They're still waste sites. So it's one more place.
one more place, yeah.
But if in fact the reactors get turned off and it's all in one place, that leaves it to one US rep and 2 senators. And if it's a temporary site, that's not good enough. So many of us support keeping it where it is now until there is a permanent program that will actually make it better. Now there are a few places like an island in the Mississippi River where it does need to be relocated. But it doesn't have to be centralized. There could be a site that was just not in the middle of the river nearby that the utility would continue to operate for storage.
I almost said someplace out of the flood zone, but the way the Mississippi has been flooding the last decade or so, where is outside the flood zone?
Well, and then, you know, the reactors that are on the Gulf are going to be probably offline because they can't take oil into their cooling systems. And so,
crime.
you know, as we have less and less use of those reactors, it's going to be really questionable about them being there at all. So
when they shut the reactor down, is it decontaminated?
sometimes they haul everything off to someplace else, but there's no getting rid of the radioactivity, it's just moving it. I want to invite people who know about Sandy Mush and who know about the history in the 1980s to be in touch with me. My email is maryo, M-A-R-Y-O, @nirs.org. And my phone number is 828-252-8409. And what I can say is that there is no decision at this time where the waste is going to go. It's not that anyone has decided to put the nation's dump in Leicester. That has not occurred. However, Sandy Mush and Leicester are back on the table. And in the next year and a half, the Blue Ribbon Commission will be issuing a report. And so we have about a year and a half for people to use whatever connections they have to say, we like our economy the way it is. We like having arts community and galleries and little shops and organic food and even second homes compared to having thousands of nuclear waste shipments coming through and then back to a dump in this area. We can have a nuclear waste economy. That's been shown. You can have businesses that thrive on feeding truckers who are driving nuclear waste shipments. But is that the economy we want here? Do we like the economy we have now? Do we actually like the tourists who come to Belshare? Do we like having the source of support that we have? If we like that, it's at risk. And we need to take action now to use the connections we have in the decision-making structure of our new presidency, of our Congress, of our federal agencies, even our clandestine agencies, even Homeland Security. We can tap the connections that we have in this community and stick up for what we have now and make sure that it doesn't get rolled by the interests that simply want to continue making more radioactive waste. That's the only reason that they would essentially, excuse the phrase, but screw the Blue Ridge, is because they want to keep making more waste.
So you're not recommending that people form a red, white, and blue panel to counterpoint this blue ribbon?
Actually, we tried that in Chicago and we didn't come out with consensus about that. So if folks locally want to form some kind of a commission, I'm all with you and we can talk about it.
At the National Convention of Veterans for Peace held at the end of August up in Portland, Maine, we had a number of people who did presentations, among which was Ben Cohen of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, actually a couple of years ago, put out this the theory that he had about Oreo's explanation of the military budget, and it was on as an animation on many places online. We had the opportunity at the convention to actually see Ben Cohen do the Oreo's explanation of the war budget in person, live with real Oreos, and we're going to share that with you here. So enjoy.
Our primary focus for VFP in 2010 is exposing the cost of war. We are delighted to honor Ben Cohen has been beating the drum for years with his own wit, inventiveness, and commitment to peace and justice. Perhaps the best criterion on which to judge Ben's appropriateness for this VFP award is his willingness to put his money where his mouth is. He personally funded the launch of both Business Leaders for Sensible Responsibility and True Majority, two groups which have attracted mainstream media attention with their activities and their published logic. Who wrote this? At persuading the nation to forsake its lust for war and bring our troops home. Ben has made countless personal presentations exposing war's costs to groups all over America using dramatic demonstrations featuring BBs and Oreos. We're about to see this. He has not hesitated to risk Ben & Jerry's good name in relation to his presentations and has taken a good deal of heat for his actions. VSP is honored to recognize Ben Cohen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very, very kind of you.
Well, you know, you make enough ice cream over enough years and, you know, you get a few awards, but it is truly an honor to get this award from this organization, and it's been wonderful to get to know some of you over the last couple of days and scoop some ice cream for you. I want to tell you how I got to be here tonight. You know, I've been working on this film on the spiritual and economic consequences of the federal budget and how our money gets split up. And at last year's Common Ground Fair here in Maine, I was walking around with a friend of mine who lives here, and I stumbled across this table that had these great postcards with quotes on them, and it was the VFP table. And I ran into these maniacs, and sure enough, they were pushing this 25th anniversary convention, and I ended up calling up and asking if I could come. You know, I'm not a vet, but would it be okay if I came? And they said, man, not only can you come, but we'll give you an award just for showing up. And I said, wow, these are my kind of people. Yeah, it seems like we've been plowing some of the same ground, and of course this is information that you guys know, but you know, in order to make sense out of the federal budget, I'm really just a dessert guy. And it occurred to me that when you're dealing with things this large and complicated, you really need to deal with it in terms of dessert. And it came to me that the proper dessert to deal with this particular issue is Oreo cookies. And so what I have here under this black cloth is a chart. It's a bar chart where each Oreo cookie equals $10 billion. And what you see here is a stack of 70 Oreo cookies, $700 billion. That is our current Pentagon budget. And what I want to do is show you, in comparison to that, how much the federal government is spending on some of these other areas. On education K-12, government spends 4.5 Oreos, $45 billion. On world hunger, the government spends 3 Oreos. On veterans health care, the government spends 5 Oreos,